خير خلق الله نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن والاه. I'd like to take this time to welcome everyone and thank you all for your patience. Alhamdulillah, it is a tremendous honor to be able to address you all, to be able to be a part of this seminar and really to be a part of this Muhsen Umrah trip. I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, have seen the videos from the last 2 years that kind of showed our trip in these past 2 years, and I watched them actually last night to kind of, we get caught up with work, we get caught up with school, we get caught up with our lives, so I wanted to kind of just put myself back in that position and bring back a lot of those memories that are there but maybe kind of got a little bit covered up or even forgotten about a little. And when I watched those 2 videos from last year and the year before, alhamdulillah, it really took me back to one of the most wonderful and one of the most beautiful and one of the most powerful experiences that I've ever had the privilege to be a part of and to experience. And alhamdulillah, very excited to have part 3 of this with each and every single one of you and your families. And really, this is a trip that it's powerful because of where we're going. It's powerful because of what we're doing. But really what makes this trip and what is the most powerful aspect of it to me, and I know to all of our volunteers and to Sheikh Tariq and to everyone who's been a part of this trip, are you, the families who we have the opportunity ourselves to accompany, the families that we have an opportunity and a blessing to learn from, and the families that we have the blessing and the opportunity to make this trip of a lifetime with. Sheikh Tariq, I like to, I'm going to take what he probably is going to say it, but he says something when we start this trip, and in the beginning it sounds more fuzzy than it actually is, right? It's like that we're a family. And that's something that we repeat and we say, and maybe in the beginning it doesn't carry the same, you can say, weight, right? It's like, okay, yeah, family, it sounds good, but I promise you by the end of the trip, or not even by the end of the trip, during the trip itself, maybe even just in the process of getting to Medina, getting to Mecca, you'll start to see, inshallah, how we really become a family, how we have our volunteers who literally give their time, their blood, their sweat, their tears, hopefully not their blood, but definitely their sweat and their tears, really to make this experience an experience that, inshallah, you will never forget. Our staff, the people who are working tirelessly behind the scenes to make sure that everything that you are looking forward to, inshallah, that is there, every concern that you have is addressed. One thing that I can promise you, we don't know exactly what will happen, but I know a lot of times there is an uncertainty, there's an anxiety, there's like, how is this going to work? How is the traveling going to happen? All of these things. One thing that I promise you from our experience these past 2 trips is, alhamdulillah, this is a trip that is blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because of the goal of this trip, because of you, the families who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has invited to His home, has invited to these 2 holy cities, that this trip is a blessed trip. And I know, not just to say, okay, Allah is going to bless it, which means that we don't have to worry about any of the issues that are going to come, but that blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is manifested in how you're going to see these volunteers, how you're going to see the staff that works tirelessly to make sure that everything is taken care of. And the one guarantee that I can give on behalf of myself and Sheikh Tariq is that as your spiritual, I don't want to say even guides, but as your spiritual kind of companions on this trip, that anything that we can do, anything that we can serve to make sure that this trip from a spiritual perspective is what exactly you're looking for and more, that this is what we are here for. We are literally an endowment for you on this trip. Any time, any place, anything that's needed, alhamdulillah, we can guarantee that we will be there for you bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So I will hand it off, inshallah, to Sheikh Tariq, and inshallah he will address you. I'm very excited, wallahi, to meet all of you, to be in your company. It's a little bit different speaking to you behind your computer screens or wherever you're watching from, but the time is coming quickly. Less than a month away. looking forward to meeting you all. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khairan Umar for that. I think there's something that Sheikh Umar and I can agree to that I think is kind of powerful. That's taken place year after year with the Muhsen Umrah trip, and that is that the Muhsen Umrah trip doesn't take place when we want it to take place. It doesn't take place how we want it to take place. It takes place the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills for it to take place. And the beautiful thing about that is what that tells us is that while I can assure you that the Muhsen team is going to do everything that they can to take care of you, that while I can make sure that Sheikh Umar and I will be in your khidmah inshallah ta'ala and in your service, that you have something very, very special about you. That even if my sister and my brother, there is something that you don't see in yourself that's unique or special, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saw something special in you, something special in your family, that allowed it to be that Allah above 7 heavens Himself has willed for you to be invited to His most sacred land. That means that no matter how impure we are, we're going to the purest of places. That means no matter how broken we may feel, that Allah is allowing us to heal and come together. That means that no matter how many masajid you may have felt disenfranchised from or kicked out of maybe, how many masajid did not allow for you or your family to be there for prayers or for programs, how many different community gatherings you've been turned away from, my sister and my brother, Allah has never turned away from you. And for that reason you're going to His home. And you're going to the best of houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I give you these glad tidings. I give you this good news. And I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us to take that journey together. And as we take this good news, it is a requirement naturally that when we gain a blessing, that what we do in return is we become thankful. The Prophet ﷺ, after spending a night in prostration and sajda, just weeping and crying to Allah, the way that many of us have cried to Allah in times of tragedy or times of happiness. When he raised his head, and Bilal radiallahu ta'ala anhu, the companion of the Messenger of Allah, he saw the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in this state. He says, how is it and why is it that you weep in such a state when you know that Allah has forgiven everything that you will ever do and have done? He says, should I not then be a thankful servant? Should we not be thankful for this opportunity that we have? How then can we be thankful? The number one way that I wish for us to be thankful in this trip is to recognize that our thankfulness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not just a lip service for us to have, rather it is a way that we carry ourselves as we prepare ourselves for this journey. My dear brothers and sisters, when we recognize that we are the guests of Allah, we realize the honor that we have. What are you going to pack in your journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Not the journey of the body, not the Turkish Airlines flight that's always amazing inshaAllah ta'ala, although sometimes I think it was the last time the landing was kind of rough. But rather the journey of the heart. As the heart leaves everything that you have here, maybe it's your corporate America job, maybe it's the house that you're confined to, maybe it's the challenges of dealing with somebody with special needs or living with special needs yourself. When your heart begins to take that journey, what have you packed in your bags to take with you on that journey? And we need to begin to remove the things in our heart, that extra weight that we would have to pay extra for, that lies within our heart, that would be a challenge for us to take with us, that may even deter us from taking a quality trip to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We need to begin to let go of those things. And we need to begin to empty our heart, so that we can prepare it to carry the right things to take us on our journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is not only a journey of the heart though, it is a journey of the body. And some of you might be thinking, this guy's going all out. with the journey of the heart thing. He doesn't know that I have to worry about meal prep for my child or perhaps for my family member. He doesn't know that I need to worry about some type of reaction from my child or my family member in the middle of the airport. He doesn't know what it's like to have to sit on a plane and wonder if I've given the right medicine at the right time when we're moving through time. He doesn't understand all of these things. Brothers and sisters, I'm going to give you the simple advice of my beloved mother. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserve her. She says, do your best and Allah will do the rest. And I guarantee you, and Allah is my witness, that throughout the years that I've lived in this world, which are not as many as you may think by looking at me, that I guarantee you that you will never find volunteers. I've never seen volunteers like the Muhsen volunteers. They will hold your hand if it's halal to hold your hand. And they will embrace you. They will help you. They will serve you. They will care for you. But only because Allah is doing all of those things for you. So let us begin the discussion of what this journey will be like, inshaAllah ta'ala. What it will be like for us on a day-to-day basis, inshaAllah ta'ala. Well, it will look each and every single step and moment of the way. And letting you know from now that, frankly speaking, and we say this every year, it's not going to go according to plan. Things will fall out of place. Things will be beyond our control. But let me ask you something, my sister and my brother. How much of our lives have been in our control? How much of where we are today have we decided? How much of what we've done has really dictated the circumstances that we live. Better time than the time when we're taking this journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to learn to take that leap of faith, to empty our hearts of all of the shattered pieces of disappointment and sadness and any other feelings that may be holding us back, and say, Ya Allah, today my heart and my body and my soul and every element of who I am, Ya Allah, it is ready to migrate to you, to worship you, to call on to you, to beg of you, and to draw nearer to you, inshaAllah ta'ala. With that, I'll ask that we hand it over to Sheikh Umrah to begin talking about perhaps what the trip will look like, and then we'll go back and forth between each other, inshaAllah ta'ala.
So I think what we wanted to do, I know there have been a lot of questions about the specifics of the Umrah, of the specifics of what's going to happen in Medina, how long do I have to be in Ihram when we go to Mecca, all of these things, and inshallah we will address them. I also want you to take solace in the fact that we will be with you, not just on the trip, but we have the group, we have the questions that we're going to be able to answer inshallah through that as well, from now until we make the trip, and then through the trip and beyond, bi'idhnillah. So don't ever feel that you're going to be in a position where you don't know what to do, or you're not sure how you're supposed to do this. All of those things, inshallah, will be taken care of. And especially when we're there and when it comes closer to the time of actually making the Umrah, we will go in depth, and make sure that we leave no question unanswered on how to actually do the Umrah. So we will go through it now, inshallah, and we're not going to focus as much on the logistics in terms of like the flights and these kind of things. I think that's something that was taken care of and is taken care of by the wonderful team and all of that information that they've been giving you. But we wanted to focus more on when we get there, what's going to happen in Medina, in Mecca, inshallah ta'ala. So we're going to be going, obviously, to Medina first, inshallah, and that's going to be, as it always is, a beautiful and just a refreshing experience to be able to visit the place that is the home of every single believer, whether you've been there or not. And for those maybe who have already gone, you know what that feeling is. You know the calmness, you know the serenity, you know the peace that you feel being in the city of the Prophet ﷺ, steps away from the resting place of the Messenger ﷺ. For those who have not been, it's still a place that you can call home. It's a place that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself calls the home of the believers. When he talks about those who made that migration to the city, he says, وَالَّذِينَ تَبَوَّأُوا الدَّارَ وَالْإِيمَانَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls it ad-dar, the home, because it is the home, it is the place where every single believer is welcome and should feel welcome, and is a place just like you feel at home in your home, this is a place, inshallah, that you will feel that it is your home. And when you leave it, that you will feel like you are leaving your home. And so it is a place that, inshallah, you will be able to find that reconnection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. And that's why in that same verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't just call it ad-dar, the home, He calls it al-iman, the actual belief. Why? Because that is the place where people are able to find their reconnection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the place where iman, where belief, it retreats to. That is the place where many of the companions went in a state of brokenness, and through that city, through reconnecting with the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they found wholesomeness again. They found healing after sickness. They found an ability to reconnect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's going to be our goal in Medina. It's going to be where we're going to, inshallah, find spiritual connection, spiritual healing. It's going to be a place where we'll reconnect with our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the one who loved you and made dua for you before you even were on this earth. That he would cry for you, and he would ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he would hope to meet you before you even knew that there was something called a messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, before you even entered into this world. So to be able to reconnect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through reconnecting with His most beloved sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that's going to be the goal, inshallah, in Medina, to find that spiritual healing. So we're going to have our lectures, inshallah, on a daily basis, where we'll be able to not just speak with you, but to discuss with you, to be able to discuss the challenges, to be able to discuss how being in that place can, inshallah, allow us and give us that opportunity to find the strength that we have inside of us, to be able to go back home and to find that connection to Allah, to that connection with our community. So we'll have our daily lectures, inshallah. We'll have our, what we call the mazarat, or the ziyarat, to actually go to the places, where the Prophet ﷺ went to, where these amazing and these monumental events in our history took place. To visit the mountain of Uhud, a mountain of Jannah. To go and pray in Masjid Quba, the first masjid of Islam. To be able to go and see these places, to see where the ditch was in the battle of the Khandaq. All of these historical places that we have the Prophet ﷺ and the companions building this thing that we benefit from today. So that's some of the things, inshallah, that we'll be doing in Medina. I'll let Shaykh Tariq also mention some of those things, and then inshallah we will continue on.
It's hard, it's hard to get to talk about Medina without getting hyped yet. Medina is just, alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed myself to live alongside Shaykh Umar in Medina for a number of years. And then again, people are like, it's home, it's home, it's home. I'm like, okay, sure. And then subhanAllah, it reaches a point when even when you go there for Umrah, even as a newcomer, when you land there, you will find yourself feeling truly at home. I remember a brother coming to me on the Muhsen Umrah trip. He said, you guys kept telling us that we're going to feel like we're at home. And he said, Wallahi, I feel more at home here than I do at home. And his wife said, yeah, because you don't live in a hotel. And that just kind of, it was beautiful to see that the warmth of Medina was there. And Shaykh Umar does something often when we go to Medina, we do the walking tour around the Masjid Nabawi, and he allows us all to close our eyes. Is this like, am I killing it? And he'll, I guess it's too late at this point, and he tells us to look down and look up and take a deep breath and recognize that we're breathing in the very place where the Prophet ﷺ lived. And there's narrations that talk about the Prophet ﷺ, that the Sahaba would look at his face and that his face would that his face would glisten and glow in the way that the moon does, and you're in the very place that his face would illuminate, in a way that compares to the moon sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And you might be thinking as I say this, but I don't know who this Muhammad guy is sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I don't know much about him. But inshallah ta'ala, as we're there, you, my brother and sister, are gonna get to know him. And you're gonna be able to realize that getting to know him isn't to know someone else. When you get to know the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you begin to discover yourself. And you begin to discover the potential and the treasures that lie within you. And you begin to realize that it's not the life of some man, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who lived in the desert 1400 years ago in a world that was so different than yours. Rather, we begin to find the parallels. That he lost the way that you lost. That he cried the way that you cried. That he worried and felt anxious and felt stressed at times. And in all of those difficulties, he felt them. And that he rejoiced at the happiness of his children. And that he celebrated the beauties of the small things in life, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So then, as we begin to know him, we begin to see life the way that he did, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You know, when you sit in your prayers in Medina, and you say, At-tahiyyatu lillahi wa-salawatu wa-tayyibat, As-salamu alayka ayyuhan nabi. And you're basically sending salawat to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How amazing is it that while you're there, in your prayer, when you send these salawat, you're saying it only a few steps away from him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we believe that when we give him salam, that he responds to that salam, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us that experience. The time in Medina is chill, you're laying back, you're kicking it, we're going on little trips, we're enjoying ourselves. There's a beautiful buffet there, inshallah ta'ala. We're in close proximity to the masjid of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You're getting to know the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You're getting to know your new home away from home. And as we do that, the heart will begin to prepare itself for the next leg of the journey, and that is when we transition for what the entire purpose of this trip is, and that is for the Umrah, inshallah.
So I know I jumped straight into Medina, and that's obviously from the excitement of going there. But obviously we will meeting. You know, we're coming from different places. We're going to be all on Turkish Airlines, but from different spots from here in the U.S. But inshallah, we will be meeting in Turkey, and that's going to be the first place that we'll all be grouping together. It's always a beautiful experience to kind of meet for the first time the people that we're seeing in pictures, the people that we're seeing, you know, by video, all of these things. So inshallah, to be able to meet and to kind of start that journey together, to refresh our intentions together, and to basically start that family trip all together, going on that same flight from Turkey to Medina, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. One thing that I always emphasize is that there are things that we will be able to help you with. There are things that you are going to be able definitely to help us with. The one thing though that is going to be only between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to be, like what Shaykh Tariq mentioned, is going to be your intention. Why are you going? Why do you think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you this opportunity? What has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala seen in you? And how are you going to respond to that? Starting from your hearts on why am I going there? What do I want to get from there? How am I going to come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on this trip? That intention is something that's only between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that no one else knows and that no one else has a part of. So as Shaykh Tariq was mentioning, Medina is really it's chill. Like, it has very laid back vibes, right? I always compare the difference between Medina and Mecca to like Medina being the suburbs and Mecca being like the hustle and bustle of the city, right? Both of them have a beauty, both of them have a magnetism to them, but they're different. So Medina is going to be that opportunity for us to prepare ourselves to rest from the long journey, to get ready spiritually to make the Umrah, which is really the essence of the trip, right? To be able to visit the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be able to go and to take this journey and follow in the footsteps of not just our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but of Ibrahim alayhi salam, the one who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told to make that call. And he said, how can I make this call? And we think it's only for Hajj. It's not only for Hajj, it's for Umrah as well. He says, how can I make a call and there's no one here to hear that call? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just told him, make the call, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will facilitate the rest. And that's the same thing that we have here. That Allah is calling us, and a lot of us don't know, how are we going to be able to make this journey? How are we going to be able to get through it? That you just take that first step like you have, and inshallah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will facilitate your visit to His house. So the actual Umrah itself, we're going to have, before we leave, the day before we leave, we're going to have our Muhsen Umrah seminar, which is always really nice. Usually we have like snacks and stuff, so it's always a good experience. And we're going to go through the step-by-step of exactly how we're going to do the Umrah. We'll do that inshallah as well today. Maybe not as in depth as we will over there, but at least to give everyone a peace of mind and a comfort that you know what you're going to be doing inshallah, and you have the ability to prepare for it even from now. So what we'll be doing inshallah is the day that we leave for Mecca, inshallah we will be entering into the state of Ihram. And the state of Ihram is a spiritual state that is preparing us to go and to make the pilgrimage and the Umrah. Mecca is such a sanctified, such a holy place that even entering into it needs to be in a specific spiritual state, and that is what the Ihram is. So the Ihram is not just the clothes, right? It's not wearing the 2 towels for the men. It's not just having not being able to wear, shoes and not being able to cut your hair. These are things that are parts of that state. But rather it is a spiritual state that is giving us the focus completely, not on ourselves physically, but on our hearts, to be able to make that journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so we will enter into the state of Ihram as we leave Medina. The men will wear the Ihram, the Izar and the Rida, the 2 towels. The women are going to be in the normal clothes that they'll be wearing inshallah over there. And then we will start our journey inshallah to Mecca.
I always, I think whenever I think of Umrah, a big part of what comes to mind after intention is that because Umrah consists of so many intricate details at times, you can't do this or you can't do that. Can I cut my nails? What if it's a hangnail? Can I cut my hair? What if I don't have hair? Right? All of these different things, sometimes we begin to forget the goal of it and we get caught up on the means that are meant to get us to the goal. Umrah itself, one of the root words that you can go to of Umrah is this concept of revival or giving of life. And Umrah is a time for us to resuscitate and revive our spiritual states and our imans. So the first thing that I want to tell you is there is very little that you can do, inshallah ta'ala, under whatever guidance inshallah ta'ala will give to you, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, that will mess up your Umrah. Your Umrah, inshallah ta'ala, will be a piece of cake without the carbs, inshallah ta'ala. It's a cheesy joke, but I say it every year, so it's become a tradition. But the idea is that, inshallah ta'ala, your Umrah will be one of great ease, it will be one of great facilitation and tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If the heart is in the right place, you will see that, you know what, I've lived a life where I've been through more complicated situations. I've dealt with so many different things before. Now that I'm here front and center, I'm on a bus or I'm on a train, whatever the case may be, and I'm on my way to Umrah, and you're saying, Labbaik Allahumma labbaik, Ya Allah, here I am in your service, O Allah, that here I am coming to answer your call, Ya Allah. You said whoever can come to answer the call, Ya Allah, it was difficult for me, it was challenging for me. Some of my family members told me that this is a ridiculous idea, but Ya Allah, you called and I am answering your call. If Allah calls on you and you answer, how then do you imagine Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answering to your actions? Rather, Allah will ease them and facilitate them. So as Shaykh Muhammad mentioned, we'll be going, we'll make the intention together, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. That seminar will leave not a single rock of what Umrah is unturned. Any question that you have, You know, one of the sisters messaged in the group, may Allah bless her with Jannah. You know, she says, what kind of slippers? You said comfortable. Like, comfortable is relative. You know, what's comfortable for me versus, like, some people like Crocs. Like, I don't like Crocs anymore, right? Like, maybe it changes. All of these things, wallahi, my brother, my sister, if you need shoes, we will go get you shoes. Slippers, what about my socks? Do they have to be black? Do they have to be white? Does my hijab need to be coordinated with my abaya? All of these different things, we will be there, inshallah ta'ala, to answer. And inshallah ta'ala, as we take that journey together, you will find it to be not only of ease, but that the primary focus needs to be on what's happening in here. I say that because the intention is what decides the acceptance of the action. And sometimes we get caught up in the logistics. And the logistics, I know for more than anyone in the world, it matters most for those with special needs and their families. And we will, inshallah ta'ala, between today and when we embark on this journey, answer each and every single one of your questions to the best of our ability in the group. But I want you to constantly be asking yourself, where is my heart? One of the saddest things I've witnessed is an auntie who went to Umrah or Hajj, I do not recall which one, and she missed 3 prayers in congregation in the Haram because she was busy arguing with the front desk that why do I not have a Kaaba view in my hotel when I paid for a Kaaba view. And I understand that that's a luxury that she wanted, that she deserved, that she paid for, but it's not to get distracted by the means. The means are to the end, to the goal. And the goal is for an accepted Umrah. The goal is for the eyes to shed tears if they can. The goal is for us to talk to Allah and converse with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The goal is that when we go around the Kaaba and we circumambulate around the Kaaba and the Kaaba becomes the center of everything that we're revolving ourselves around, that through that time that Allah becomes the center of what we revolve the entirety of our lives around. And inshallah ta'ala we'll depart, and then we will go together and we will get to the hotel. We will let you know of a meeting point, a meeting time. We will meet together inshallah ta'ala. And every single few feet, we will gather again together. There will be checkpoints. You will not be left alone. You will not be left to figure it out on your own or to answer any of your own struggles by yourself. We'll be there to help you inshallah ta'ala each and every single step of the way.
I think one thing also that's really important to know is that a lot of times we focus so much on like the minutia, and like Sheikh Tariq said, it kind of sometimes allows us or makes us forget the bigger picture. The beautiful thing with Umrah is the simplicity of it. It seems like there's a lot going on. It seems kind of complicated because of some of the rules, but I promise you it's actually one of the simplest, one of the easiest, one of the most blessed actions of worship that you can do. And you will see that there are only a few things in the entire process. When we talk about it, inshallah, in the seminar, you'll see that it's only 4 pillars. That's it. Everything else is either a recommendation or something that is there to facilitate for you to make that Umrah experience something that's going to be spiritually uplifting for you. So even all of the small rules and all of the details are all there for you to focus on, like Sheikh Tariq said, your heart, to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at His house. So all of the rules of Ihram, you can't cut your hair, these things, it's to remind you that you're going there not to focus on your physical. It's to remind you that you're going there to focus on your internal and on your spiritual. Every single rule of Umrah, or every single, you can say like law or what we have to do or what we can't do, is there to facilitate you connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at His house. That should be the primary focus. And then even, let's say that a mistake is made or that you forget something, there's always something that can make that up. There's always something that can fix that. I promise you, inshallah ta'ala, that no one will leave without having a Umrah that is complete. Inshallah, we'll take care of, or we'll help to take care of the physical side, right? But inshallah, you just focus on that internal, on that spiritual, on connecting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, like Sheikh Tariq said, that when we get to Mecca, that we'll be able to check into our rooms, we'll be able to get some rest. I know that there's a lot of concern about the time of when we'll be making Umrah and these kind of things. Don't worry, we will make sure that there is a time and that it's facilitated for everyone to do Umrah at a time and in a way that they're comfortable with, and at a time and in a way that they'll be happy with, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So it doesn't mean, for example, that if we decide on a specific time and you and your family, it's not going to be feasible, that's going to be too difficult, that you have to force yourself to just join the group. No, inshallah, the plan is that we will have, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, multiple times and multiple opportunities for people to be able to make Umrah at a time in a way that is most spiritually fulfilling for them. So the Umrah itself, like I said, it's literally 4 pillars. We talked about the intention, which is encapsulated within the Ihram as well. Number 2 is the Tawaf, which we'll inshallah be doing together. And again, it's a very powerful experience to be at the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be able to open up, to be able to let everything out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala there at His house. We'll make the Tawaf together, the 7 circuits. Then inshallah, after that, we get Zamzam, we pray 2 rak'ahs in the area behind Maqam Ibrahim, and then we go and do the Sa'i, the Safa and Marwa, which is the 3rd pillar of the Umrah. That is something that is going to be inshallah also done together, done as a group. At that point, that's like the relaxing part of the Umrah. You just finished your Tawaf. It's going to be basically just a long walk or a long ride between Safa and Marwa bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. That's the 3rd pillar. You don't even have to have wudu or anything like that for that. So it's very simple. And then after that, we complete the Umrah by cutting the hair. With that, you have the 4 pillars of Umrah, and the Umrah is complete bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So as you can see, it's a very simple process. The specific details, again, we're going to answer some of the questions that we have here. Any detail, any question that you may have, inshallah, we will answer it, and inshallah, that it'll be something you'll see is going to be very simple and very straightforward. After that, we'll have the opportunity to spend those days in Mecca, being able to pray in the Haram, being able to have time that we can connect with each other as well, continuing with some of the lectures, some of those visits of certain places there in Mecca as well, these historical places. So you'll see, inshallah, that there's going to be a lot of time, a lot of opportunity to have not just individual actions of worship, not just individual ibadah, but also group togetherness, also coming together and learning from each other and benefiting from each other, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Again, it's very simple. The Umrah, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. I know I'm emphasizing and I keep, touching on this point, but I want all of you, through everything that you've already faced and through everything that you are currently even dealing with, to recognize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by Him inviting you to His house, by Him inviting you to these holy lands, that this is your opportunity to connect with Him. This is your opportunity to find that spiritual rejuvenation, to find that spiritual hope, to find that spiritual healing that this kind of trip provides, that our group is going to do whatever we can to facilitate that for you, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala.
I love the words that Sheikh Umar chose. He said it, this spiritual journey. And I think when we talk about the spiritual journey, this is the last part before we go into the Q&A perhaps, inshallah. I think one thing that requires is to say that if my body is going on this journey and I'm strategizing and planning all of these things for my body, then I have to have a game plan for what my heart and what my soul plan to do. And maybe there are things that I can begin to do today that will help me when I get there. So an example of that is asking ourselves, what are the habits that I need to start breaking from now? Perhaps at this point of time, I'm struggling with my 5 prayers. Perhaps at this point of time, I don't know if I'm making wudu correctly or not. Perhaps at this point of time, the Quran has been collecting dust on the shelf since Ramadan. These are all possibilities. As we begin to approach getting there and being there for Umrah, we need to begin to warm up our hearts and our souls. And the workout, and I'm not an example of this at all, I kid you not, that the workout is only as good as the warm-up. Is that correct, Umrah? And what I can tell you as a person with zero experience again is that when you warm up the spiritual heart and soul, what you'll begin to do is, inshallah ta'ala, that when you're there, constantly, and this is something again I remind myself of, is keep people are waiting for that magical moment. And I'll tell you a word of advice that I heard from one of our teachers. I went to him and I said, there's this mu'tamid with me and he's on the last day of his trip here. This person was here for Umrah. And he's saying that he keeps waiting for that moment, and his heart hurts so much from the fact that everyone is having these amazing moments. The first time they see the Kaaba, they go into Masjid Nabawi Sharif, they see the Qubul Sharif of the Prophet ﷺ. May Allah unite us with him in Jannah. And he says they're having these moments, and I'm not having them. I keep waiting, but it's not happening. And he told me literally in the simplest of words, he says, tell him to stop waiting for the moment. Tell him to create it. Tell him to create that moment. Tell him to leave the hotel, to go to the masjid. Tell him or her to sit down. Tell them to go into the masjid and sit and talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Talk to Allah like they've never talked to Him before. Talk to Allah like the best friend that He is subhanahu wa ta'ala, or He ought to be subhanahu wa ta'ala in my life and your life. Pour your heart out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Empty the vessel that lies within of everything good and everything challenging that you faced, and begin to heal. Open the Quran and read it. Recognizing that while the Quran may have been revealed 1400 years ago in the desert of Arabia to the Prophet ﷺ, yes, that is true, my brother and sister, but know that without a doubt, while the Quran may have been revealed to the Prophet ﷺ, it was not revealed only for him. My brother and sister, every single verse of the Quran was revealed for you, for your life, for your challenges, for your circumstances, for your blessings and for your opportunities. So let the Quran speak to you. And these habits, and I remind myself first and foremost, Allah is my witness, that they need to begin now. That we begin to practice them now, because if you feel as unready for this trip as I swear to you I feel, then that means that we need to begin to prepare the soul from now. And to begin to unlock in what are the good habits that we should be doing, whether it's prayer, whether it's abandoning smoking or vaping, whether it's stopping to drink and eating the things that we shouldn't be doing, whether it's perfecting or correcting or bettering our wudu, whether it's rectifying our relationship with loved ones that maybe we've abandoned for years because of toxicity that may have once existed. We need to begin to prepare ourselves from now, just as we're preparing ourselves in all other factors, inshallah ta'ala. As for the tawaf, there's a game plan in the tawaf and the sa'i that is worth noting, and actually we'll keep these for when we're there, inshallah ta'ala. Oftentimes people ask, how can I be engaged in a conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when there's people around me that are loud, maybe they're smelling, maybe they're pushing and shoving, all of these things may be taking place. How can I be in the right frame of mind and the right state of mind? Inshallah ta'ala, we'll give you guys some tips that perhaps we've learned from personal experience, as well as that which we've learned from our teachers when we're there for Umrah, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala.
I think now we'll switch over to the question and answer. We have already a lot of questions that were sent in, and so I'll try to go maybe in kind of an order of the timeline. So we have a question on regarding prayer on the plane. It's a very good question. Time and space, meaning when will we be praying and where. So on the plane, what we'll do inshallah again before we leave is that there is a way that we're able to calculate the prayer time. We don't do it, but there's an app, or there's an app for everything, that we can basically determine when the prayer times are going to be when we're traveling. So for example, we're going to be leaving at night. Most of us, I think all of us, after already the time for Maghrib and Isha. So we'll pray, inshallah, Maghrib and Isha. If you're at the airport already and it's the time of Maghrib, then we can pray Maghrib and Isha combined at the airport together. Or even if there's time and you want to pray Isha and it's time before you board the plane, you can do that, inshallah. And then based off of when we're going to be arriving in Turkey, most likely we'll be praying Fajr on the plane, Dhuhr on the plane, and Asr on the plane. And then when we get to Turkey, inshallah, we'll be able to pray Maghrib and Isha in Turkey. So for Fajr, Dhuhr, and Asr, we still do pray on the plane. That's still an obligation that's there, and we do it to the best of our ability. So inshallah, you'll be able to see approximately the time that's going to come in. So for example, Fajr will probably be a couple hours after we leave, after we take off, and then you'll be able to pray inshallah on the plane in your seat. You make wudu if you have, obviously in the bathroom, if you have the ability to do that. That condition obviously is still there, and then you can pray bi'idhnillahi ta'ala sitting in your seat to the best of your ability, Fajr, and then Dhuhr and Asr combined and shortened as well. So that's how we'll be praying on the plane. You don't have anything to add? We'll save this one. So we have a few ihram questions.
What happens if you break your wudu during tawaf for sa'i? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, you were saying to take these? Oh, I apologize. What happens if you actually, the easiest one to answer, I'll be honest. What happens if you break your wudu during tawaf for sa'i? So what will happen, inshallah ta'ala, is when we get to the hotel, we'll check into the hotel, everybody will go to their rooms, we'll let you guys know, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, what are the times that one of the leaders will be going to Umrah, inshallah ta'ala, and we'll be giving a few different options, accommodating to your needs, bi'idhnillah. When you come down, you will leave your room in the state of wudu. And one thing to point out is you do not need to be in a state of wudu in the entire time that you are in ihram. But as you prepare to go down for Umrah, you will make wudu in your room, inshaAllah ta'ala. Then you'll come down to the lobby where we will meet you, and then we'll go out for Umrah together. Depending on the time of day, there may be a prayer. Perhaps we will pray those prayers together, maybe with a congregation, or we will have our own congregation. And then after that, we will begin the actual process of Umrah with the tawaf. And again, these are details we will discuss in the actual seminar that we have during the Umrah trip. It is only, as Shaykh Umar mentioned earlier, Allah Yazid Khair, is that it is only an obligation to have wudu for the tawaf. You will perform the tawaf, inshaAllah ta'ala, and pray the 2 rak'at that are associated with the tawaf, inshaAllah ta'ala. After that, you do not need your wudu for the sa'i. What if somebody breaks their wudu during tawaf? There are areas around the Kaaba within relatively near distance that you can go to, inshallah ta'ala, where you can make wudu. What if you go ahead and you lose your wudu in the middle of the 3rd tawaf? That is also not an issue. So what you would do is you would go out, you would make your wudu, inshallah ta'ala, and then you come back and you start from the beginning of whichever one you were in. So if you were in the middle of the 3rd one, for example, you would come back and you would start from the beginning of that 3rd one and continue until you finish the 7th tawaf bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. And sa'i does not require wudu.
So how long do we need to be in ihram? Inshallah, you're going to be in ihram for the duration of the actual Umrah, and then from the time that we will be leaving from Medina, we'll actually put on the ihram in the hotel. We'll enter into the actual state of ihram together by making that intention when we're leaving from Medina. So I would say it's going to be approximately, how long do you think?
It varies depending on which Umrah.
1 day max.
Yeah.
1 day max. It's gonna be, and that's the highest possibility. Inshallah, it'll probably be less than that, but it'll be 1 day max. And for the men, especially if you have, and we'll talk about this as well. If you have a belt, it makes it a lot easier. Inshallah. So you might even like the ihram and want to keep it on for a little bit longer than you have to. Maybe it's possible. But yeah, it's not going to be that long.
You can look forward to some really funny ihram stories when we're there in the seminar, inshallah. Can I wear a leg brace for medical reasons while in ihram? And Shaykh Ahmad, of course, he's, first of all, my older brother, and he can correct anything that I say if it needs to be adjusted. matters like this, where there's a medical need, the circumstance is such that, of course, you can accommodate to that medical need. And there is no sin involved. So, for example, if a person has to wear, because of their physical needs or their special needs or medical needs or what have you, they need to wear, for example, shoes. Or perhaps they have to wear. Oh, this is for men specifically, Jazakallah khair for the clarification. For men specifically, because of the limitations of the ihram, which is to wear the 2 towels and something on your feet that does not encompass the entirety of the foot, that if they go beyond that, that perhaps because of their medical condition, they do have to wear shoes or they do have to wear a leg brace or something like that, then there is no issue. This does not in any way, shape, or form invalidate their umrah or take away from the reward or the virtue of their umrah. Rather, inshallah ta'ala, because of their special need, we hope and we pray and we assume the best of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that they will get more reward. But what will be necessary is that a sacrifice be made, inshallah ta'ala, to compensate for that area where the ihram was not fully met. But other than that, there is no sin, there is no invalidation of the umrah, there is nothing except for a compensation that needs to take place for that lack of perfection of the actual ihram, but that does not take away from their reward. Rather, inshallah ta'ala, it is our hope and our belief that they will be rewarded more for their specific situation and for still meeting the prerequisites and the needs in order to fulfill their umrah, inshallah ta'ala.
Please advise on whether or not socks should be worn while in the haram. Should socks be worn while doing tawaf? Are shoes permissible while doing tawaf? Okay, so we'll take it one at a time. So, socks worn in the haram? Yes, you can wear socks in the haram, and it depends on how you feel. If it's too hot and you don't want to wear socks, you don't have to wear socks. But if you want to wear socks, of course you can wear socks, and I think that's something that's more of a personal preference, both for men and for women. Should socks be worn while doing tawaf? For women, no problem. No problem at all. In fact, you might find it's easier on your feet to wear socks for the walking. And for men, no. Men, unless there's a specific medical need, that men are not allowed to wear socks or shoes in the states of ihram. Rather, you're going to be barefoot. That's the default. And then you will be able to wear slippers or sandals when you need to as well. That's fine. But for shoes during tawaf, there's nothing specifically against it. Like for women, for example, who want to wear their shoes in tawaf. However, because it's within the masjid when you're making tawaf, you may get a lot of dirty looks if you're wearing shoes. So it may be something if you have thicker socks or if you have, some of those, they have those kind of like, they look like leather socks kind of shoes. Those may be better. But in terms of permissibility versus impermissibility, it is permissible for a person to wear shoes during tawaf. Allah knows best.
Can we perform more than one umrah? Can we perform more than one umrah and or on behalf of someone else, and how do we do this? Beautiful question, very important question that we get asked often during the Muhsen Umrah. The hadith of the Prophet ﷺ teaches us that we do Umrah for ourselves before we do Umrah for anyone else. And the reason why this is because you want to be able to do that spiritual self-care first. So if this is your first time embarking on Umrah, then what would be required is that Umrah that we take together, that it would be a Umrah that you are doing for yourself. And rest assured, you do not have to travel back to Medina in order to make an intention again. Rather, just as there is a miqat or a location from which the intention is made for the people of Medina and the people of that direction, similarly there is one for the people of Mecca. It's about a 15-minute cab ride away from Masjid al-Haram, from where the Kaaba is. So you would leave the hotel room, wearing the ihram perhaps, having made wudu even if you would like, and you can take the cab to that location. This is after performing your own Umrah, completely completing your own Umrah, and getting out of the state of Ihram, and then going and getting in the cab and going and making the intention at the miqat of the people of Mecca, coming back and then performing Umrah from start. Now, if the question is, with regards to, who do I make Umrah for? You make Umrah for those relatives of ours who have passed away, or for loved ones, or for people that you have been entrusted to perform Umrah on their behalf who have passed away, or a person whose sickness and illness is such that it is to be believed that they will not be able to have the opportunity to perform Umrah, and under those circumstances, a person can perform Umrah for them, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best.
Okay. So I think we just addressed it. So there is a question regarding issues relating to woman's cycle. And this is something that comes up a lot, and I'm sure this is a question that a lot of people have, and we've had in our previous trips as well. And obviously, this is something that, alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He has made His deen and His religion something that is that facilitates and that is easy in the lives of people, and that anytime there is a excessive or an additional hardship, there's always a source of relief and facilitation and ease. And this is something that's natural, that happens for women, and that's the issue, even to take a step back, is that the default is that while a woman is on her cycle, that she is not obviously praying, which means that she also is not able to perform tawaf, which, like we said, is an integral part of Umrah. And so as such, what happens is a lot of women, they get a little bit worried, and even they're afraid that during the time that we're supposed to be making Umrah, that this is the time that they're going to be on their monthly cycle. And so what some women even do is that they take medication to change, to alter that monthly cycle. This is something in our years of experience and from talking with doctors and with talking with other scholars, not something that I personally, I think also Sheikh Tariq would recommend in terms of taking medication to alter, because of sometimes the effect, the impact that this may have, and that this doesn't always work, and it can cause more problems than it solves. So what I would say specifically for this is that I would say don't worry about it, but not to have too much worry about this issue until and unless this issue becomes a reality when we're there. So in Medina, for example, if a woman she knows that she started her cycle, or that by the time we go for Umrah that cycle is going to be just starting or whatever it may be, then inshallah we will deal with it at that point, and there is a solution, there is a way for her to still be able to do the Umrah. So inshallah she will do the Umrah with or on this trip. So just to give a very, very brief way of how we deal with it, if she knows, for example, that when we get to Mecca, that she is going to be on her monthly cycle, but that monthly cycle will finish before the trip concludes, then inshallah she'll be able to be in a state of ihram and delay her Umrah until the cycle finishes. If it gets to a point where there's an issue that she feels that she's not going to be off of her cycle until we leave, then inshallah we deal with it as such, and she's able to make her Umrah, and there is something that we give as a fidya in this case, as something that she pays to make up for that, but again with no sin on her or anything like that. So basically, long story short, inshallah, it will not be a problem, or it will not be an issue. I don't know if I dealt with that to your satisfaction?
To my satisfaction. I would say that this is always a very sensitive topic, and I was just looking for the hadith actually that it reminded me of, which is that in the pilgrimage of the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ entered upon our mother Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, and he found her weeping, he found her crying, and he said to her, what is it that made you cry? And she communicated, she said to him sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that she had entered into her menses. Our mother Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, may Allah be pleased with her. And the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam responded to her, and he said to her, that shay'un qad katabahu Allahu ala banati Adam, that this is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has willed and written for the daughters of Adam. And this is, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has willed it to be in such a case, then of course we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us a way to address it. And the answer that Sheikh Umar mentioned is the case, it is such that we will deal with it bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. The thing that I want to address is not the particularity of Umrah, but is that sometimes what happens, and forgive me, consider me your brother for the sake of Allah, I'm going to talk to you as my sister, and that is that sometimes the sisters become so caught up in this topic that half of the time they're either stressed about it or they're crying about it. No disrespect intended. And what that does is it completely overshadows the blessing of where they are. And wallahi, what was beautiful to observe of some of our sisters who were on their menses is that they were still in the courtyard of the haram listening to the prayer even though they weren't praying. And they would sit after the prayer and they would do their morning and evening adhkar. And that they would find ways to, as I like to say, spice it up and be creative in the way that they are engaging with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I recall a sister saying that her being on her period during this time was a way for her, rather than having her stereotypical or normal routine of worship, she was able to discover new ways and new avenues for her to connect with her faith and her relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is something that perhaps is a silver lining or a way to look at this in a positive mindset. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew that your period was going to come, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala still invited you to be there, and inshallah ta'ala there will be a way for you to revisit your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a unique and blessed way. It doesn't make you any less of a Muslim. It doesn't make you any less of a servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It doesn't make you any less of a worshipper of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It just means that the way that you submit to Allah, the way that you worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be unique to the circumstance that you're in. Your circumstance is different, but the Lord that you're calling on is the same. So talk to Him in the same way, inshallah.
The time we don't have our shoes on, what do you recommend? Socks?
I was going to say, you usually have really creative socks too. I like your socks.
Is that I think that's I think the question is socks or no socks.
Oh, socks or no socks.
That's what I think it is.
I would say that obviously
the time we don't have our shoes on, what do you recommend? If someone wants to clarify that question, maybe if that's what it is, I would say socks. If you're hopefully we'll be there at a time, inshallah, it's not going to be too hot, so wearing socks shouldn't be an issue. Who are the best people to give sadaqah to? It's a good question. So the question is, and then there's cleaners. So who are the best people to give sadaqah to? Cleaners. So alhamdulillah, the opportunity to give sadaqah is going to be something that a lot of people they want to benefit from in this part of that aspect of the trip as well. I know that there is a sister that she told me every single time I go, I met her not too long ago, she already has given me the money to give to some specific people there for sadaqah. So it's a beautiful intention to want to go and to give sadaqah as part of your trip. And so there are multiple avenues, multiple opportunities to give sadaqah. As the question mentions here with the question of cleaners, yes, those who are within the Haram in Medina and Mecca, who are, you can say they are distinct in that they're wearing specific colored clothes, that they have different jobs within the Haram. Those are definitely a worthy and a beautiful place to give your sadaqah as well. There's also different institutions there that you can actually go and officially give sadaqah. So they have like these kiosks in different places in the Haram in Medina and Mecca that you can give, for example, sadaqah jariyah, a continual charity. You can give to orphans, right? They have these, what they call jam'iyats, these institutions or these organizations that distribute sadaqah as well. So there are multiple opportunities for a person to give sadaqah, and where a person feels like they want to give and they feel like their heart is comfortable in giving, then I would say to give, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you better.
So how are men and women separated in Medina versus Mecca? That's a really good question. The way that it's divided, and one of the things that I'd like to clarify, is that the Haram is, if you were to think about the size of a masjid, the Masjid al-Nabawi today is the size of what Medina was at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. And as we go on the walking tour, what you will see is that, inshallah ta'ala, where some of the houses of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ are, within the scope of the Masjid of the Prophet ﷺ. Where the hotel is located is strategically been chosen to be a place that has easy access to both men and women prayer areas, as well as easy access for people with special needs. So inshallah ta'ala, there are separate areas, completely separate areas, and then there's a courtyard that unites us. This courtyard is an area in which people end up praying typically as they are going into the masjid. If you want to pray within the walls of the masjid, and of course it is better to pray in general to the best of our abilities within the walls of the masjid and closer within the masjid to the beginning of the jama'ah. But of course, there are times where if you're running late to prayer, perhaps you end up praying in the courtyard. The courtyard then as well is divided into pockets where the men will pray, as well as pockets into where the women will pray. And when you go there, inshallah ta'ala, we'll walk you to the masjid for the first time, bi'idhnillah, and we'll show you the areas where the woman's entrance is for the courtyard, as well as for the actual entering into the masjid of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As for Mecca, the situation in Mecca is similar yet different, in the sense that we all enter into the same masjid, we all enter into the same general masjid, but then within the masjid, while we all perform tawaf together and we perform sa'i next to one another with our mothers and our sisters, and so on and so forth, and with each other, our group, our Muhsen family, that when prayer times comes, we separate and we're able to pray brothers with brothers and sisters with sisters, and they will have designated areas for the sisters to do so and designated areas for the brothers to do so, and then we can set a point to reunite, inshallah ta'ala, so that we can continue in whatever we're doing.
Is there a way to donate money for Qur'ans to be distributed at the Kaaba for deceased relatives? So actually, the last time that we were there, that this issue got brought up, and so there is an opportunity to buy Qur'ans and have them put in the masjid. However, sometimes the Qur'ans are removed because the Qur'ans that they put inside or that they keep inside for people generally are used or are only the ones that have been given from what they call the mujamma. It's a specific, what is it called? The printing press, the Quran printing press. That's where they put the Qurans in. So there may be an opportunity to do this. However, it's not guaranteed. Last time that one of the sisters tried to do it, she was unsuccessful in it. So it's something that we can look into, definitely. But again, like we mentioned, there are a lot of other avenues for giving continuous charity on behalf of someone else.
It's actually always beautiful, subhanAllah, to see how people are so creative in how they want to give and do good while they're there. And maybe that's another thing that you can plan with yourself and your family, is what are some unique and creative ways, inshallah ta'ala, that you can do good deeds that outlast this trip bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. With that,
That's all we have. Do you have any more questions?
alright, inshallah ta'ala, with that, we thank you. We know that this was a lengthy explanation. We pray that it was of benefit to you, and on behalf of the entire Muhsen team, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to ease this journey for you, to calm your heart, to comfort you, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow our hearts to grow closer to Him and closer to one another, inshallah.
Also, before we end, that was a good ending, but just something in addition.
I'm gonna hand over to you anyway.
I don't have anything else to add, but we also we have to make sure that we, as he asked for, a shout out to our other and our dear brother, Sheikh Hassan Maltour, who will be joining us. The reason that he's not on the call or on the seminar with us here is because he's actually in Medina already. So inshallah we'll be meeting him there. He's getting things for us prepared from that side.
Literally not.
So he'll be waiting for us to greet us there. He's someone that we're also blessed to have with us on this trip, alhamdulillah. He's helped us out in other capacities in the past 2 trips, so he's going to be officially with us this year as well. So you'll be able to meet him. Inshallah, you'll be able to enjoy his company and benefit from him as well. So Jazakumullah khair. Looking forward to meeting each and every single one of you on this journey. Take care. Also, I can't forget, even though I forget a lot of things at this point, to thank our sister Albina for her interpretation. It's always a blessing to be able to have her with us and for her work and giving access to those who need the sign language interpretation. So we want to thank her for her time and for being with us today as well. So thank you.